For this lab, we'll be working on dissecting the thorax of the pony specimen. So as you can see here, the first thing you need to do on your pony specimen is actually remove the right limb. So you'll remove that with directions that are very similar to how you remove the left limb. So you're just taking that limb off of the body and then continuing with your dissection of the thorax. So here we're on the left side, and we'll take a look at some of the muscles on the thorax here. So here on the thorax, you can see some of the muscles that we've already talked about that have been reflected. So you have your latissimus dorsi muscle that's hopefully still attached with that aponeurosis, and that's been reflected previously. And now we're looking at the serratus ventralis, both parts. So you have both parts to that muscle. You have a cervicis part, so that's up by the neck, and then you have a thoracis part here on the chest. So that part, the thoracis part, is the part that you'll need to reflect in order to get to all of these ribs to continue with your thoracic dissection for the day. So on the thoracis portion, what you want to do is start caudally and just use your fingers, and with a scalpel, you're going to cut these serrated edges on the caudal edge here and just pull it forward, and you're going to reflect that whole thing cranially. So you're just going to keep going up until you can see all of the ribs. So here's the first rib right here, and you want to be able to see all of those ribs. So just pull it forward, and you can leave it attached. It stays attached by this cervicis portion here. So you can leave it attached to the body. You don't have to remove it, but you want to pull it all the way cranial and just reflect it out of your way. So I'm just going to pin that back so we can continue and look at the thorax here. Another note, if you do have any skin left between your thorax and your abdomen area here, you want to remove that as well. So you may have just a thin strip, and you'll just take that off. And you can actually remove the skin completely. You can see I've taken it off here. There's no more skin left on the pony here. All right, so then what you're looking for is the serratus dorsalis. You have cranialis and a caudalis portion. So again, you're going to see those serrated edges on this muscle. So that goes with the name, serratus, and then dorsalis because it's more dorsal rather than ventralis, which was more ventral. So serratus dorsalis, cranialis is the more prominent portion here. And you're actually going to try to keep it attached, and you're going to reflect it. So it's attached with this aponeurosis, but this is covering your epaxial muscles that we want to look at next. So you're going to reflect it, and just kind of as you did with the serratus ventralis, you're going to detach those serrated parts and then reflect it dorsally. So here you can see my caudalis, serratus dorsalis caudalis, is actually kind of overlapping the cranialis slightly. And so you just have to kind of peel those apart, and then you want to reflect them and hopefully keep them attached and just reflect them dorsally. So here with that serratus dorsalis caudalis, you want to do that same thing and detach these edges and then pull them up and reflect it and keep it attached by that fascia, that aponeurosis there. So reflect those dorsally, and then we can see our epaxial muscles here. So if you remember from the dog, the mnemonic that we used was the I love tacos. So it's the same thing here. You have those same systems. So you have the iliocostalis system, which is the I part. So iliocostalis right here. And then love would be the L for longissimus right here. So you have longissimus system next. And then T for tacos is transversospinalis, which is here. And so transversospinalis, we've already identified the splenius portion, which was here. So that's part of that transversospinalis system. But for right now, on our thoracic dissection, we want to focus on the iliocostalis, right here. And so you're going to reflect that and try to keep it attached again, but if you end up cutting it off, that's okay. So you're going to differentiate the iliocostalis from the longissimus, and then reflect it cranially. So you're actually going to just take a scalpel and work underneath the edge and peel it away from the ribs, and then just take it all the way forward to that first rib. And try and leave it attached, like I said, but if you cut it off, it's okay. So then your longissimus system is here. We have longissimus that has two parts. There's a thoracic part, so your thoracic part kind of is right here, extending caudally, and then your cervical part will go up towards the neck. So the cervical part of longissimus is here. So I'll demo just a couple of these intercostal spaces, removing the intercostal muscles. And here on the pony, you want to leave about the last 3 spaces or so with the intercostal muscles intact, and that's fine. You won't need to get back that far for our dissection purposes. So what you want to do is make a cut dorsally. So you're going to start dorsally up by the longissimus system and just cut in there, and then you're going to cut on the cranial edge and the caudal edge of each rib. So you'll be removing just a strip. It's your intercostal muscles, so external and internal intercostals, but you'll just remove them as a strip of muscle. So, and as you do this, what you're going to do is take your finger and stick it inside and palpate. So you're going to move down as you cut this and keep feeling for the line of pleural reflection is what it's called. So at a point, your finger will stop being able to go down. And so that's where the pleura is reflecting, and you need to stop at that point. So here I'm starting to hit it, and you want to go just to that line. So my finger can't go any further down. And so I want to stop my incision here, and then you just basically connect it to the other side. And then you'll just take off a strip. And then you can just discard these intercostal muscles. You don't need to save them. And for this dissection, I recommend having a bucket underneath your animal because we'll end up having fluids coming out of the thorax here as we do this dissection. So like I said, you're going to feel where that line of pleural reflection is, and then as you move forward, that line keeps dropping down further. So we'll do the next one. And again, you're just cutting cranially and caudally in that intercostal space and removing a strip of muscle. So if you can, try not to nick your diaphragm underneath, and then further up you'll have lungs that you're going to run into. So as you go, you want to feel your way and make sure you're not going past that line of pleural reflection. And about there, I'm starting to run into it, so then I'll connect my sides. And just remove that strip of muscle. So you'll continue to do this and move cranially. So you start caudally and move cranially and remove all of the intercostal muscles. And you'll actually do that on both the left and the right side. So here, as you can see, I've removed all of those intercostal muscles from in between each rib. Except for those last few, we left those in place. But here, all of the intercostal muscles have been removed down to the line of pleural reflection. So that's the point where your finger would stop, is that pleural reflection. So that line of pleural reflection where the pleura reflects, the diaphragm is right here. So it's reflecting between the wall of the thorax and the diaphragm. And so that space that happens in, where I'm going to stick the probe here, so that space between the thoracic wall, the ribs, and the diaphragm is called the costodiaphragmatic recess. And that's just that space. It's very narrow, but it is a space created between the two things. So costodiaphragmatic recess is there. Here you can see the left lung in here. So you'll have a caudal lobe and a cranial lobe here on the pony for the left lung. And now we're going to look at removing the ribs. So on the pony, you're going to remove all of the ribs except for 7. So you want one kind of in the middle here. This is rib 7 that will keep the thorax up. So just in case your pony is too heavy, we don't want the thorax to collapse while you're trying to dissect inside. So you're going to remove ribs 1 through 6, leave number 7 here, and then you're going to remove from 8 up to 15. So we just leave the last few in place, 15 through 18, since we don't really need to get back there. So you can leave those intact, and then number 7 we'll leave intact. So you're going to do that on both left and right sides. And here you're just going to cut with a striker saw or the pruners, the garden pruners. You're going to cut as far dorsally as possible. So right along the ventral edge of your longissimus muscle system here. And so you're going to cut dorsally on all those ribs. And then you're also going to cut ventrally, right about the costochondral junction and right along that line of pleural reflection. So you'll end up cutting them ventrally down here, and then just removing them and discarding all of those ribs. So I will show you an example of how to do that with a striker saw on just a couple of these ribs, and then you will go ahead and continue to remove all of the rest of the ribs except for 7 and 15 through 18.